Welcome to Time Vault Games. I'm ELD, here to ask you for help in growing the channel. When we reach 2,500 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a custom leather playmat to one lucky subscriber. So be sure to like and subscribe. Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. We have Matt on a Gruul Blood Moon brew, powering at a turn 1 Blood Moon Pile Souza, brainstorming in response, and not finding a basic land or a Force of Will, so he is going to be locked out of colored mana right now, only has access to red. Now his deck does have some basics, not quite as many as the Astrolabe heavy build. We've got a Seasoned Pyromancer, discarding a couple of cards, making some tokens, and making some forward progress here as Matt creates quite a clock. And it looks like this game's going to be over, and it is. Matt completely steamrolling the non-basic lands there with the turn 1 Blood Moon. Really what the deck is designed to do. You'll find these Stompy decks are at their best when the opponent is not playing a game of Magic. If you can lock them out with a turn 1 Blood Moon or Chalice of the Void, that is really where they want to be. Their threats overall, mercifully, are not, how would you say it? Sometimes they beat you down with Magus of the Moon and Simian Spirit Guide. Let's go with that. They really don't always have the highest caliber threats. They don't have much in the way of card advantage, and it's very much about the opening hand. So Pyle's going to have to be very careful with his mulligan decisions here. Make sure that his hand can stand up to some worst-case scenarios. Force of Will gives you some breathing room. However, having basic lands can mean that you actually don't have to counter a Blood Moon. And in fact, Grixis actually sometimes runs Blood Moon in the sideboard, given that it has so many basic lands or access to those basic lands because of the fetch lands. It's not that it's stockpiled with basics like, say, a Miracles list, but tons of fetch lands. And, you know, you can get out a couple of islands and a swamp, and then the rest of your lands being mountains is really not the end of the world. Everything in the deck, for the most part, will be castable there. And we've got a turn 1 Blood Moon and basic Swamp being fetched. Basic Island in hand. So we've got a Baleful Strix. And this is looking like a reasonable game. We've got Karn being Force of Willed. This Baleful Strix has drawn a card and could potentially thwart Matt's first threat, or actually set a clock. A Bitter Blossom, very mana efficient. That's going to be able to pump out a stream of 1/1s. Got a Chalice of the Void. And Land Grant, kind of thinning the deck, but not the type of reply that you're looking for when your opponent is setting a very significant clock with Bitter Blossom and Baleful Strix teamed up. Now we've got a Plague Engineer not killing the Dryad. Probably a preventative versus Goblins. Once Upon a Time is going to dig. Finding a Magus of the Moon. Really just kind of redundant at this point. It can hold back the Plague Engineer. Oh, and another Plague Engineer. It won't. It will not hold it back. We've got a double block. Continuing to beat down, and this game also very one-sided as Grixis is able to actually cast its spells there, and despite a Blood Moon and Chalice of the Void on the table, that Bitter Blossom really drained Matt's life in a hurry. Yeah, Bitter Blossom is a very powerful Magic card, one that doesn't see as much play as you'd imagine. If you'd played in like Lorwyn Block Constructed, I mean, it was incredibly powerful back then. And, you know, it's just a powerful card in a format full of powerful cards when we're talking about Legacy. And that's really one of the amazing things about this format, is the ability for new cards to kind of just be at home. Even if they're super busted, it can be the best card in Standard, and it really is likely just going to be another one of the boys, so to speak, just able to splash around with cards like Brainstorm and Force of Will and so many others. Though we have had some cards that have needed banning over the last year, we've had a whole bunch more that are right up to the line in power level. Once upon a time, really one of those cards, it had to be banned in other formats. Here in Legacy, ends up being totally fine, giving some boost to some archetypes that kind of needed it, and also enabling some new archetypes, as we see here Matt kind of brewing green into this build that historically has been mono red. Land grant, a free spell, tipping his hand, letting Pile know the best way to play from here. This Chalice at 1. A basic Swamp. Baleful Strix, Underground Sea able to tap for blue, which is nice. We see that unmistakable splash of red in Pile's hand. It's going to be able to deny Matt's best first attempt. We'll see if this merits a force, and actually not going to bother forcing it, going to allow the 4 damage clock. Of course, Baleful Strix can trade with the Seasoned Pyromancer. We'll see what he decides to do here. He's going to Tyrant Scorn and swing. Currently going to be losing the race, facing down 2 damage a turn versus his 1. And Karn, that one absolutely merits forcing. Of course, Brainstorm dead thanks to Chalice of the Void, but still useful in its ability to enable a free Force of Will. Plague Engineer coming down, clearing those elemental tokens, and Pile's plan coming into focus now. Looks like a Goblin Sharpshooter to me. Colgan's Command. Seasoned Pyromancer, and that gets a Hydroblast, an incredibly powerful card in this matchup. That Colgan's Command clearing the Chalice and the body. Just incredibly good at 3 mana. One of the cards that makes Grixis so resilient, the ability to actually play even though your cantrips are cut off. Eventually, when you find your Colgan's Command, blowing up that Chalice and getting additional value is really a pivotal turn in so many games when Grixis is facing off against Prison. Narset. An absolute wrecking ball in blue mirrors. Here, it's actually just functioning like a dig through time and potentially gaining a point of life. If Dryad Arbor does clear it. And another Colgan's Command. Oof. Discard and kill the Dryad Arbor. And now Jace the Mind Sculptor coming down. We've got some Super Friends action here. Narset and Jace. Jace is going to Fate Seal the Noose. Tightening here. The walls coming in from both sides, and Matt has to extend the hand as lethal damage eventually will be dealt by those creatures. And of course, Jace, even if those were handled, would have been very likely the end. So Grixis showing some real resiliency in the face of one of the more difficult to play against Prison decks. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.